so glad that you joined us today for this Easter celebration. We want you to feel at home while you're here. But we do want you to know in a couple of weeks we've got a really big event coming. We're going to be celebrating water baptism. And so the way that happens at Kingwood is in 2 weeks after the 10:30 service, we're all going to join in the foyer, and families and friends will gather around, and we're going to be celebrating water baptism with several people that day. So we'd like to invite you back to be a part of that celebration. And then also, in 3 weeks is going to be Mother's Day, and we've got a really special day planned. We're actually going to have 3 of our own Kingwood ladies speaking that morning. Now, they're not going to speak 3 times as long, okay? I don't mean that. But they're all going to speak the same time, but they're going to, 3 ladies, Suzanne Cox, those of you who know her, travels all around the country and speaks, but this is home, and she's going to be sharing. Pastor Corey, one of our very own pastors, and then also Hannah Sims. And so we've got a baby boomer, a Gen Xer, and a millennial. They're all going to be sharing, so there's something for everybody. It's going to be a great day for not just moms, but it's a day that we honor all ladies. And so, man, I just want to encourage you to be here, join us. If you're online, join us online that day. It'll be a great day to be at Kingwood. Well, a few years ago, I say a few years ago now, how many of you the pandemic's messed up your clock? You know, you say a few years ago, that's like 10 years ago? Yeah. So really, a lot of years ago, when our kids were young, we have 2 boys, and they were little, something like 9 and 3 or something like that. We had flown to Denver. We were flying out of Denver back home. And it was just one of these crazy, chaotic times. I stopped by to see a pastor friend, and he said, "Oh, I've got someone. We'll run them to clean the car because you got to turn the car in, and we just want to do that for you to serve you and help you." And I said, "Now, you sure they'll make it back on time? You know where this is going?" And he said, "Oh, yeah, no, we checked, and it'll be fine. They'll be back here on time." Well, they weren't on time. It was late. It pushed us late for the airport. We got to the airport. This is like 2000, maybe 2005, so it's just about 4 years after 9/11. And we're rushing to get into the airport. All the screening and, safety screening had really locked down. And we get in this giant line in the Denver airport, and we're trying to walk. Trying to get in. We're late. We know we're late. We're trying to hurry. Okay, let's go. We get to the check-in, and the lady that's checking everybody in is going, "Go that way, go that way, go that way, go that way." We get to us, and they go that way. We went, "Oh, no. We know what that means. We know what go that way means." We've been randomly selected, for terrorist screening. So here we are with our little 9 and 3-year-old going to terrorist screening. So we get over there, and they run us through the whole thing. And then all of a sudden, the person decides, "We need to check your wife's purse." I said, "Listen, we're late. We're going to be late." "I know, sir, but we have to do this." And so they take her purse and us, and they separate or they leave the kids with one of us. They separate us, like we're about to do something. And then they go to the table, and they take my wife's purse, and they take everything out one thing at a time. And we're just going, "Hey, we got a plane." Finally, we get through that and put everything back together, and then they say, "Oh, we need our manager to come over," and the manager comes over and unloads my wife's purse again, takes everything out, so we don't do whatever we're going to do. So finally, we grab all our stuff. We're headed to the gate. Of course, it's not the close gate. How many of you know you fly? It's never the close gate. It's the far one. So we're running, 3-year-old and 9-year-old in tow. We're stretched out across the airport trying to get to the gate. We get there. The door is shut. The stewardess is gone. Just so happened the little tunnel leading to the plane has a window in it, and the airport has a window in it. And somehow, by some miracle, I lock eyes with the stewardess loading herself onto the plane down the tunnel. And she sees us, and she looks and sees us running and stops, comes back and says, "Are you the West family?" "Yes, we're the West family." She said, "Hurry up. Come on." I'm like, this is all we got. We got the pedal down. This is all we got. So we get on the plane. It's crazy. We barely make it. People are stink-eyeing us the whole time, because we're holding the plane up. So we finally get on the plane, take off, land in Atlanta, and we're connecting to go back to Gulfport, Mississippi, which is where we lived at the time. So we get to Atlanta. We got just this short little window. In this time, we have got to eat, do whatever we got to do, and then we got to get on the next plane, and there's just a short time. We're already stressed and tired. We get off the plane. We get something to eat. We sit down. I'm about to take a bite of my cheeseburger. You know, we're starving because everything we've been through, all the adrenaline. And my 3-year-old says, Daddy, what? I got to go to the bathroom. Can you hold it? Daddy, I don't think, and it's just all the pressure of everything, and this puddle starts to form on the floor around his shoe. And I look down his leg, and it is wet, and it's under the table everywhere, and I'm just thinking, oh no. Everything we own is in a suitcase being transferred from one plane to another. I've got napkins. That's all I got. And I said, okay. I mean, we gotta get to the next plane. So I'm carrying a soaked child through the Atlanta airport. And I thought, no problem. I don't care what you could charge me anything you want. I'll write you in my inheritance. I need some clothes. I'll just go, and I think there's shops everywhere. I'll just go to the shop and I'll grab some clothes, you know. So I go to a shop. They don't have what I'm looking for. Go to another one. They don't have. I went shop to shop to shop to shop. I changed concourses. Just an FYI for anybody that travels. They do not sell below the waist clothes in the airport. I don't know if you knew that. I never knew that. Never needed to know that. Never cared. They sell tops. That's it. So I bought an extra large men's shirt. And I take my 3-year-old to the bathroom, and I throw his shoes away, and I throw his socks away, and I throw his pants away, and I throw his underwear away, and I throw his shirt away because it's soaked, and that child is naked with a man's shirt on. That's all that child has. And by this point, we're late for the next plane. So we're running through the airport with a naked child with a man's shirt on, trying to get to the next gate, and he thinks this is great. He's going... He's going, just smiling. Stop it. You stop that. You stop that right now. You know, God, we're going to get arrested. We're going to get thrown out. And, you know, and he's pitter-pattering like bare feet in the airport. You know, there's germs from everywhere in the world, the airport, just pitter-pattering. We get onto the plane, and we like tuck his shirt in and try to put the seatbelt across it, you know, and put the tray down and lock him in there. And, man, we got some looks on that plane. Did we get some looks? We got home that night, and we said, thank you, God. You know, I don't think I'll ever fly again. We've all had moments in our life, you know, that are filled with chaos. In a very, very different way or heavier way, this is kind of like the last few hours of Jesus' life, but it's much, much heavier. Because people are dying, and people are hurling insults at him and cursing him, and the Roman soldiers are cursing him, and the crowd, the religious leaders are cursing him, and as Jesus' life is slipping away, it's slipping away in the middle of chaos, and people are accusing him of being fake. And his followers who had followed him through thick and thin, most of them have ran away. And time's running out. He suffered a severe beating and now a crucifixion, and his life's draining out of his body. And you know the story. You know he wasn't crucified alone. He was crucified with 2 other men. And he had a conversation with those men. And so we've been in a series we've just called Conversations with Jesus, and for weeks now, we've been talking about some of the really powerful conversations Jesus had with people when he was on earth. And in fact, the series isn't even ending today. Next 2 weeks, we're going to be continuing and talking about more of those conversations. But if you want to catch up with us, you can go to our YouTube channel and you can hear about the other conversations we've been talking about. But today, we're going to talk about the conversation that Jesus had with the 2 criminals on the cross. Luke 23:39 starts the conversation. One of the criminals who hung there hurled insults at him. Aren't you the Messiah? Save yourself and us. So these 2 men were criminals, and we don't know a lot about them. We don't know exactly what they did, but whatever they did, it was bad enough that they deserved capital punishment. So the first criminal basically says to Jesus, it kind of made fun of him and says, hey, look, if you're who people say you are, prove it. Do something awesome. Come off the cross and, save yourself. Oh, by the way, while you're doing it, save me too. Save us. Verse 40, but the other criminal rebuked him. Don't you fear God, he said, since you're under the same sentence? We are punished justly for what we're getting, for we are getting what our deeds deserve, but this man's done nothing wrong. So the second criminal knows that he and his friend are guilty, or he and the other criminal are guilty, and he knows that Jesus is innocent. And Matthew and Mark actually tell us that both criminals cursed Jesus for a while. But somehow, this second criminal had a change of heart in the middle. Verse 42, then he said, Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom. Now, this word remember is not the way that we use it in English. When we say remember, what we're oftentimes saying is think about me. It's kind of like when you go to the beach, you have your toes in the sand, you take a picture, you send it to a friend and say, this is my happy place, wish you were here, not really because I didn't invite you, but I thought about you, right? You know what I'm saying? I thought about you. That's kind of how we think about remember me. But that's not what remember me means in the language that this verse was written in. What remember me means is help me and deliver me. So what this criminal was saying was, hey, we're going to die soon, and when we die and this life is over, in the next life, help me and deliver me. Like do something, that I can't do for myself. And so here's what's interesting about this whole conversation. You may have noticed Jesus is silent. Like through all the criticism and all the insults and the cursing and everybody throwing all this stuff at him, Jesus didn't respond. He didn't argue. He didn't try to correct the criminals. It'd be easy to say, why don't you just hush? You're up here with me. What's the big deal? He never responded. But here are Jesus' only words in the whole conversation. Verse 43, Jesus answered him, truly I tell you, today you'll be with me in paradise. Now that's so certain and it's so emphatic and there's no hesitation. Today. Not hope so, not maybe one day, not maybe when you retire, not whatever. Today. Today you'll be with me in paradise. Now, this conversation blows up so many of our misconceptions about God. And I want to share some of those with you. One of the misconceptions we have about God is, you've gone too far, right? You may be thinking, if you only knew what I've done, if you only knew how I've lived, if you only knew what I said. I've worked with people long enough to know that behind the makeup and the pressed clothes and the nice car and, the good job and the fun social media post, I've worked with people long enough to know that there are real people with real problems behind all that. There are addictions and affairs and divorce and betrayal and sexual sins. And there are people that we hurt, and there's sometimes schemes and gimmicks and depression and anxiety and, not pretend, like real life, like things that people really suffer through and deal with. And sometimes people ask me the question, hey, do you think that the reason that my life turned out the way that it did is because God's punishing me, for something that I did X, Y, or Z? And the answer is, no, I don't believe that at all. God's not mad at you. He's not, trying to pay you back. He's not in heaven with a big hammer just waiting for you to mess up so He has a good excuse just to pound you the rest of your life. Jesus' one statement blows up that entire way of thinking. You've got two criminals here that deserve capital punishment, and one of them, or both of them actually, was just cursing him minutes earlier. And so here's what I want you to see. If this guy who deserves capital punishment hanging on a cross is cursing Jesus just minutes before this, and Jesus says, "Today you'll be with me in paradise." If he hadn't gone too far, you hadn't gone too far. Because probably most people in this room don't deserve capital punishment. Maybe a few. Most people in this room and online probably have not cursed Jesus to his face. Maybe some. But either way, if Jesus accepted this guy, he'll accept you. Last Sunday, one of our pastors, Pastor Jason, was down in Calera. There's a sister church of ours who was dedicating a new church building that they moved into. It's an awesome day. And he was there, and he ran into a friend that he knew in high school. He hadn't seen since high school. And she looks at him and says, "You're the last person that I would expect to see at this event in the church." Because he was not a Christian in high school. Last time she saw him, he was way away. And he said, "Oh, really?" He said, "Yeah, actually I'm a pastor today." She said, "Really?" And he said, "If I'm honest with you, you're the last person that I would expect to see her, because in high school she was an atheist." And last Sunday they were in Calera, Alabama, celebrating a church's progress in reaching its community. If they hadn't gone too far, you hadn't gone too far. There's another misconception we have: you aren't good enough. Now, what I mean by that is maybe you hadn't been all that bad, you just hadn't done that much good. Maybe you have just kind of lived for yourself and kept to yourself and done your own thing. Well, think about this criminal on the cross. He's cursing at Jesus and all this stuff, and then minutes later he's saying, "Hey, remember me." He hadn't done much good, right? He doesn't even have enough time left in life to do enough good to prove that he was sincere. So apparently, being able to do enough good isn't enough. Ephesians 2:8-9 says, "It's by grace you've been saved through faith. It's not from yourselves, it's the gift of God." Look at this. It's not by works. Relationship with Jesus is a gift. You and I don't have the ability to. You could live your whole life like Mother Teresa, and it would never be enough. It would never be enough. So if this criminal was accepted by Jesus, and he couldn't earn it, you and I can't earn it, but we can still be accepted by Jesus. One of the other misconceptions we see is you don't know enough. I think most people at some point in their life feel spiritually inadequate because they feel like they don't know enough. I've felt that way sometimes as a pastor. People expect you to know something because you're a pastor. You're like, I really don't know. But I think we've all felt that just because we don't know enough about God, or we don't know enough about the Bible, we don't know enough about church, we don't know enough about theology. And let's be honest, sometimes in life we're put in environments that make you feel that way. Anybody, when you were a kid, used to do Bible race? Anybody know what I'm talking about? You'd have to turn to a book of the Bible so you could turn to anybody remember this? Yeah, the teacher would say, "Okay, everybody, we're going to do Bible race. We're going to do Bible race." I hated it. We're going to do Bible race. I thought, whoever can turn to Leviticus 4 the fastest, is going to get a little treat. 3, 2, 1, go. And you just be wheeling over there. And the pages of the Bible are so thin, they stick together. And I didn't know where Leviticus was. I didn't know the books of the Bible. You just be wheeling over there trying to find it. And I'd never won. Never, ever did I ever win. And I always thought, man, if this is what it takes to be spiritual, I'm going to hell for sure. Because I can't find, the right book of the Bible. Did you know that for most of Christian history, the average Christian couldn't read? Did you know that? And that's the reason that a lot of the old churches that you would go into, particularly if you go into Europe, that they had stained glass. Because etched in those stained glass colors are Bible pictures. And they're pictures of different scenes from the Bible because the average Christian couldn't read. So when they would come to church, they would look at those beautiful scenes and it would remind them about the stories that they were told. Now, I guarantee you, everyone in this room and everyone online this morning, you know more. You already know more than that criminal did. You already know more than he did. So you don't. It's not about what you know. You know, when you came this morning, it might have felt strange to you, being in a church service. Maybe you've been to a church service before. Maybe it's been a long time. Maybe you came and you said, I didn't know the songs. I don't know what to expect. I didn't really know what was going to happen. Maybe you were drugged here by a family member or a friend, or maybe you just, we popped up in your YouTube feed and you just jumped online to hang out for a minute, and you kind of wonder, is there a secret handshake you got to learn, or, I don't really know many people. You know what I'm really glad about this morning? You just don't have to know much. This criminal knew less than every one of us, and Jesus accepted him. And if Jesus accepted him, he'll accept you. So there's one more misconception that we oftentimes have, and that is it's too late. It's too late. I'm too old. My life is too defined. I've gone one direction too long. What will people think? If I take on some kind of new religious thing now. It wasn't too late for the criminal on the cross. And he lived a bad life. And he pursued things he should not have pursued, and it caught up with him. And right in the middle of dying from his capital punishment, that's where he encounters Jesus. Reminds me, many years ago, I was in college, and my mom bought me a plane ticket to fly home for Thanksgiving. You're going to think, what is it with this guy and flying? You're never flying with him. I'm never flying with this guy. I'd only flown one time in my life. This is my second time. And I was in Central Florida, and I had to drive to Tampa to get on the plane. And I thought, this is before 9/11. What's the big deal? You just throw your stuff in the car, you head over there, walk in, get on the plane, I'm home, no big deal. I didn't know much about tropical storms in Florida either. And on the way, this deluge of rain, blinding. You couldn't even see out the window. The wipers are on high, and it's like they're doing nothing. And cars backed up for miles, and of course, I was late for my flight. And I get there, and this time the door's shut, and nobody's getting in. And I missed my flight. And so I had to call my mom, and I had to tell her I missed my flight to come home for Thanksgiving. But first, I had to go find a payphone. Now, half of you don't even know what that is, but I had to go find a payphone, and then I had to go call collect, and 2/3 of you don't even know what that is. But that's where you have to get permission from the person you're calling to pay for your call. So I had to call my mom, collect, have her pay for it to tell her I'm not coming home. That was so fun. So fun. It felt so bad to be so late. About this time last year, my mom passed away. And I was thinking about it this weekend, and I was thinking, man, I wish I had that day back. I wish I could catch that flight now, and I wish I could see her and have that day back. But I can't have it back. And that's the thing about being late, is you never know how late it is. Nobody really knows how late it is. Nobody really knows how much time we have left on earth. During COVID, I had two friends, two pastor buddies. One was a little older than me, one was a little younger than me. They both got sick with COVID. They both died, shocked their families. Nobody saw it coming. And that's the thing about it. None of us really know how late it is for us. There's one thing we do know, though. We know we have now. We know we have now. We just don't know how much longer we have after that. Here's what I know. If Jesus accepted this criminal at this late hour, then He'll accept you too. So let me give you a thought from this conversation that reveals the truth. The only requirement for following Jesus is trusting Jesus. That's it. You know, it's amazing to me that one criminal thought that what made Jesus Jesus is for Him to come off the cross and do something spectacular and show off and save Himself and everybody else. And this other criminal thought the very thing that made Jesus Jesus is that He stayed on the cross. Pretty interesting. When I get to heaven, I'd love to find that criminal and just find out how that went. Today, you'll be with me in paradise. You know, minutes he's gurgling, breathing his last breath, he dies, and then he's with Jesus in paradise. Can you imagine how that must have went? You know, he rolls up, sees an angel. How'd you get here? I don't know. I don't really know. You been baptized? No. Oh, you must be a church member. No, I've never been to church. Well, do you know the books of the Bible? No, I've never seen a Bible. Never read one. Surely you can explain some of the doctrines of the church. No, I don't know any of them. Well, how was it that you got here? Did you you must have lived a really good life, and you're confused, and you think because you lived a good life that somehow that's going to, allow you to be here. No, not really. I didn't live a good life at all. Not at all. Well, what makes you think you can stay here? The man on the middle cross said I could stay. Apparently, it's just not that hard. Apparently, you don't have to be good enough. You don't have to be smart enough. You don't have to know enough. You don't have to be, anything else. Apparently, it's just not that hard. We make it harder than it is, I think, sometimes. The one thing that you have to do, this criminal did. He trusted Jesus with his sin, he trusted Jesus with his life, and he trusted Jesus with his eternity. Now there's one question that we have to ask. And that is, well, how do we know that Jesus is trustworthy? I mean, 3 men were beaten and crucified and executed, and 3 men died, and 3 men were put in the grave. How do we know he's trustworthy? Well, because a couple days later, some of Jesus' closest followers went to the tomb to visit him. And when they got there, the rock that was rolled over the opening of the tomb had been rolled away, and they went inside the tomb, and his body was gone, and there was nothing but grave clothes there, and it was empty. Do you know there are thousands of religions in the world, and there's only one founder of any religion on earth who came back from the dead? There's only one. If Jesus conquered death, you can trust him. Matter of fact, let's say it like this: Jesus' resurrection proves that he's trustworthy. So if he conquered death, you can trust him. Would you stand with me this morning? Man, if you're online with us right now, we're so happy that you've been part of the service, and I want to say this to you before we go any further. We have a prayer team that's online, live, and they've been praying for you. Not just today, they've been praying for you for weeks. And if you would like to trust Jesus with your sin, with your life, with your eternity, our prayer team's there and would love to pray for you. Just jump over in the comments. You might have to log on to a different medium or something, but get over there to the comments. We're on all the platforms. and just say, I want to give my life to Jesus today. I want to start a real relationship with Jesus. And our prayer team's going to meet you there and pray with you. And if you have a need that you need to trust Jesus with, just put it there and they're going to pray with you. And for all of us today, we're going to sing this. This is an old song that probably everyone's heard. If not everybody, almost everybody. And it's a song about trusting God. And as we sing it, what I want to invite you to do is just to think, God, is there some part of my life that you're inviting me to trust you in? Is there some part of my life that you're calling me to give to you, to trust you? Maybe it's my whole life, but maybe it's some other area. Would you pray with me this morning? Lord, I thank you today that you're no longer in the grave. I thank you today that you beat death, and if you beat death, you can beat anything that we're going through right now. Lord, I thank you that you have been resurrected, and the same power that brought you back from the dead is here with us in this moment. And Lord, you are here moving and working. Today, Lord, as we sing this song together, I pray we'd hear your voice, that we'd sense you moving inside of our heart, and that you'd call us to a greater place of trust in you. In Jesus' name. Amen. Let's sing this song together, okay?